Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cynthia Gwiazda, Community Services Librarian at Hagaman Library here in East Haven. I'm coming to you today to review some new fiction that we have available at the library this August. So I'm excited to share these books with you that you can come in and borrow or call us and have us reserve them for you. You can call the library's main number at 203-468-3890. So without further ado, I'll get started in sharing these with you. These are new August reads for adult fiction. And the first book I'm going to talk to you about today is Vera by Carol Edgarian. Meet Vera Johnson. Meet Vera Johnson, 15-year-old illegitimate daughter of Rose, notorious proprietor of San Francisco's most legendary bordello. Vera's grown up straddling two worlds, the madam's alluring sphere, replete with tickets to the opera, surly henchmen and scant morality, and the quiet domestic life of the family paid to raise her. On the morning of the great quake, Vera's worlds collide as the city burns and looters vie with the injured. Orphaned and starving, Vera and her guileless sister are cast adrift. Disregarding societal norms and prejudices, Vera begins to imagine a new kind of life. She collaborates with Tan, her former rival, and forges an unlikely family of survivors, navigating through the disaster together. Vera brings to life legendary characters and celebrates the audacious fortitude of its young heroine, who discovers an unexpected strength in unprecedented times. That's Vera by Carol Edgarian. Everyone in the Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austin. Gilda, a 20-something atheist, animal-loving lesbian, cannot stop ruminating about death. Desperate for relief from her panicky mind and alienated from her repressive family, she responds to a flyer for free therapy at a local Catholic church and finds herself being greeted by Father Jeff, who assumes she's there for a job interview. Too embarrassed to correct him, Gilda is abruptly hired to replace the recently deceased receptionist Grace. In between trying to memorize the lines to Catholic Mass, hiding the fact that she has a new girlfriend, and erecting a diary dish tower in her crumbling apartment, Gilda strikes up an email correspondence with Grace's old friend. She can't bear to ignore the kindly old woman who's been trying to reach her friend through the church inbox. But she also can't bring herself to break the bad news. Desperate, she begins impersonating Grace via email. But when the police discover suspicious circumstances surrounding Grace's death, Gilda may have to finally reveal the truth of her mortifying existence. A delightful blend of warmth, deadpan humor, and pitch-perfect observations about the human condition, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead is a crackling exploration of what it takes to stay afloat in a world where your expiration and the expiration of those you love is the only certainty. That's Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austin. White Rose, Black Forest by Ian Dempsey. December 1943, in the years before the rise of Hitler, the Gerber family's summer cottage was filled with laughter. Now, as deep drifts of snow blanket the Black Forest, German dissenter Franka Gerber is alone and hopeless. Fervor and brutality have swept through her homeland, taking away both her father and her brother and leaving her with no reason to live. That is, until she discovers an unconscious airman lying in the snow wearing a Luftwaffe uniform. Luftwaffe Wafe uniform, his parachute flapping in the wind. Unwilling to let him die, Franca takes him to her family's isolated cabin, despite her hatred for the regime he represents. But when it turns out that he is not who he seems, Franca begins a race against time to unravel the mystery of the airman's true identity. Their tenuous bond becomes as inseparable as it is dangerous. Hunted by the Gestapo, can they trust each other enough to join forces on a mission that could change the face of the war and their own lives forever? That's White Rose, Black Forest by Ian Dempsey. The Winds Are Not by S.J. Bennett. It is the early spring of 2016, and Queen Elizabeth is at Windsor Castle in advance of her 90th birthday celebrations. But the preparations are interrupted by the shocking and untimely death of a guest in one of the castle bedrooms. The scene leads some to think the young Russian pianist strangled himself. Yet, a badly tied knot leads MI5 to suspect foul play. When they begin to question the household's most loyal servants, Her Majesty knows they're looking in the wrong place. But the Queen has been living an extraordinary double life ever since her teenage years as Lilibet. Away from the public eye and unbeknownst to her closest friends and advisors, she has the most brilliant skill for solving crimes. With help from her assistant private secretary, Rosie Oshadi, a British Nigerian officer recently appointed to the Royal Horse Artillery, the Queen discreetly begins making inquiries. As she carries out her royal duties with her usual aplomb, no one in the royal household, the government, or the public knows that the resolute Elizabeth won't hesitate to use her keen eye, quick mind, and steady nerve to bring a murderer to justice. S.J. Bennett captures Queen Elizabeth's voice with skill, nuance, wit, and genuine charm in this imaginative, and engaging mystery that portrays Her Majesty as she's rarely seen, kind yet worldly, decisive, shrewd, and most important, a superb judge of character. That's Winds Are Not by S.J. Bennett. The Girl in His Shadow by Audrey Blake. London, 1845. Raised by the eccentric surgeon Dr. Horace Croft. After losing her parents to a deadly pandemic, the orphan Nora Beatty knows little about conventional life. Well, other young ladies were raised to busy themselves with needlework and watercolors. Nora was trained to perfect her suturing and anatomical illustrations of dissections. Women face dire consequences if caught practicing medicine, but in Croft's private clinic, Nora is his most trusted and secret assistant. That is until the new surgical resident, Dr. Daniel Gibson, arrives. Dr. Gibson has no idea that Horace's bright and quiet young ward is a surgeon more qualified and ingenious than even he himself. In order to protect Dr. Croft and his practice from scandal and collapse, Nora must learn to play a new and uncomfortable role, that of a proper young lady. But pretense has its limits. Nora cannot turn away and ignore the suffering of patients, even if it means giving Gibson the power to ruin everything she's worked for. And when she makes a discovery that could change the field forever, Nora faces an impossible choice: remain invisible and let the men around her take credit for her work, or step into the light, even if it means being destroyed by her own legacy. The Girl in His Shadow by Audrey Blake. The Rebel Nun by Marge Charlier. Marge Charlier's The Rebel Nun is based on the true story of Clotilde, the daughter of a 6th century king and his concubine, who leads a rebellion of nuns against the rising misogyny and patriarchy of the medieval church. At that time, women are afforded few choices in life: prostitution, motherhood, or the cloister. Only the latter offers them any kind of independence. But by the end of the 6th century, even this is eroding as the church begins to eject women from the clergy and declares them too unclean to touch sacramental objects or even their priest husbands. Craving the legitimacy thwarted by her bastard status, Clotilde seeks to become the next abbess of the monastery of the Holy Cross, the most famous of the women's cloisters of the early Middle Ages. When the Bishop of Poitiers blocks her appointment and seeks to control the convent himself, Clotilde masterminds an escape, leading a group of uncloistered nuns on a dangerous pilgrimage to beg her royal relatives to intercede on their behalf. But the bishop refuses to back down, and a bloody battle ensues. Will Clotilde and her sister succeed with their quest, or will they face excommunication, possibly even death? In the only historical novel written about the incident, The Rebel Nun is a richly imagined story about a truly remarkable heroine. That's The Rebel Nun by Marge Charlier. The Flores of Sicily by Stefania Ossi. In this grand sweeping epic inspired by the real lives of history-making titans, international best-selling author Stefania Ossi brings to life the dark secrets, the loves and betrayals, and the cruel acts of revenge that marked the Florio family's century of influence. The Florios arrive in Sicily with nothing but the clothes on their back after an earthquake destroys their hometown. Against all odds, the family begins anew, despite the looming Napoleonic wars and devastating plagues. But when Vincenzo is spurned by his aristocratic lover, he vows to avenge his honor by becoming the wealthiest man in Italy. Sacrificing love and family, he strives to buy what cannot be his by birth. Not to be outdone by the men, the Florio women unapologetically demand their place outside the restraints of caring mothers, alluring lovers, or wounded wives. Giulia, though only a mistress, is fiercely intelligent and runs the empire from the shadows. Angelina, an illegitimate daughter, charts her own future against the wishes of her father. In this epic yet intimate tale of power, passion, and revenge, the rise and fall of a family taps into the universal desire to become more than who we are born as. The Flores of Sicily by Stefania Ossi. Island Queen by Vanessa Riley. Born into slavery on the teeny Caribbean island of Montserrat, Dorothy Kerwin Thomas bought her freedom and that of her sister and her mother from her Irish planter father and built the legacy of wealth and power as an entrepreneur, merchant, hotelier, and planter that extended from the marketplaces and sugar plantations of Dominica and Barbados to a glittering luxury hotel in Demerara on the South American continent. Vanessa Riley's novel brings Doll to vivid life as she rises above the harsh realities of slavery and colonialism by working the system and leveraging the competing attentions of the men in her life. A restless shipping merchant, Joseph Thomas, a wealthy planter hiding a secret, John Roosevelt sells, and a roguish naval captain who will later become King William IV of England. From the bustling port cities of the West Indies to the forbidding drawing rooms of London's elite, Island Queen is a sweeping epic of an adventurer and a survivor who answered to no one but herself. As she rose to power and autonomy against all odds, defying rigid 18th century morality and the oppression of women, as well as women of color, it is an unforgettable portrait of a true larger-than-life woman who made her mark on history. That's The Island Queen by Vanessa Riley. And that's the end of our presentation. I hope you've enjoyed this little list of some of our new fiction available at the library, and I hope you will give us a call to reserve some of these titles. You can check our website also. We have these listed there, as well as this video. And we also have a pamphlet you can download that has more of our new books from other It has children's and young adult uh, books, as well as nonfiction. So you can check that list as well. That's on our website, and so I hope you will check that out. That's www.Hagaman Library, Hagaman Library, that's one word, .org. So www.hagamanlibrary.org. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I was excited to present this to you today. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and I will be back with you next month with some new September reads. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next month.